Welcome to the Unpacking Sunday podcast, where we explore what God is speaking to you, to our church, and to the world around us. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let's unpack it together. Michael Perks.
We're rolling.
We are back.
Here we are.
That's become my new thing. What did Josh used to say?
All right.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I say we are
Yeah,
back, and it's
we're
not
back.
even intentional.
But we are back.
It is. Here we are.
And the sun is gone. It's been like a week
Oh
of
my
blazing
gosh.
sun.
I have loved it.
It's the best. I love cold, sunny days.
Yeah. Grieving the loss of sunshine. But it was
It's still bright
a nice
outside, though.
reprieve. Speaking of bright, new cross outside the building.
It looks great.
Yeah, awesome.
Somebody said it reminds them of the East Van cross.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thought. Is it's iconic.
Right.
Bit. Just think of all these souls driving past at night, and they're gonna have this white shining cross that was never there. It was always there. They just
it
never saw
happens because of the location of this church, right?
Mhm.
So many people say, even if they've never come here, they're like, "Oh yeah, I drive by that all the time."
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder how many people drive by not realize that we're a church.
I did squeal a little bit last week
Mm.
when I was driving here. When would it have been? Thursday, was it? It was sometime. I was driving past right after we had just lit it up. And I was on the phone with someone and I shouted because I looked over at the church and I was like, "Oh my gosh." And they're like, "What's wrong?"
Yeah.
It's like, "No, the cross looks so awesome from the highway. You can see it so clearly."
Pretty exciting. So yeah, church, if you didn't know, our dear friend Rob Butterworth, who him and his family moved to Australia last week. It was literally the day he was flying out. He was still trying to get this thing up and ready, but he helped us, found a lot of used and found stuff on Marketplace, and we were able to get a very affordable and job done, and he set up this illuminated crock with the help of Steve Fox.
Yeah. Shout out to Steve
Fox. You are a hero and a scholar among men. But yes, so we have this bright, beautiful illuminated cross on the outside of our building that you can see from the freeway now. So make sure you check it out as you're driving past.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
You won't even be able to help yourself but check it out when you drive by.
It's amazing. Light in the darkness. That's what we want to be. It is. Yeah. It's not too bright, is it?
No, it's like almost as bright as if the sun was standing still in the middle of the day.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, I think also with the fogginess and everything and it being so dark in that area, it is just very noticeable, which is awesome. That was the hope. So
that's the hope.
And I'm sure it'll actually become a little bit more comfortable to the eyes with a little bit.
It's going to draw people in.
Yeah, good. Awesome. That's the hope. Great. But yes, as you mentioned it, Joshua 10.
That's what we talked about this week.
Mm-hmm.
The sun standing still. Crazy.
Yeah. Really crazy.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, me neither. And there's never been a day like it, according to the word.
Not before or since.
Yeah. So, but it is interesting how doing some research on it, this is one of the main things that atheists will run to, saying if the earth stopped, everyone would go flying or oceans would change, whatever, like that kind of thing. They say it's impossible that this could happen, but nothing is impossible for our God.
No, and I actually was reading because I was like, this does seem impossible.
Yeah,
how could this have happened?
Right.
And I don't really care how God did it.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's the heart of it.
It doesn't make it less miraculous if there is a scientific explanation for it, because God still did it.
Right.
So I was reading, like, perhaps for a day the earth shifted off its axis.
Oh.
So that then it was like the day actually would have been longer.
Okay. Like up in the north kind of deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wherever.
Interesting.
Right. That could have been it.
Okay.
Some people are like, oh, maybe the light was just reflecting off of something.
Yeah, a refraction type of thing. Yeah.
I was like, sure. And if that's still a miracle.
Yeah.
Some people were saying that God himself stood in their midst and was shining so brightly.
Wow.
That it would, and I was like, okay, also still a miracle.
Yeah.
So whatever it was, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's literally that since God made the earth, he caused it to stop moving and the oceans stayed in place.
That's true. It could have even, God is able to make time stop,
Maybe it's that time stop.
That is not something that is out of the realm of possibility for the power of God. So within that, there's a whole bunch of things with like the whole Bible. You can take a look and say, well, scientifically, this makes no sense. But, a lot of the realities of what God has done and who he is doesn't make sense to a lot of that kind of scientific nature. But in the end, science is born out of what God has made. So
science is just discovering what God is already up to.
So true.
Way later than he started doing it.
So true.
So
it's amazing. Well, and speaking of which, have you heard or seen any of these images coming from the
Shroud of Turin?
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm talking about from Hubble telescope images of other galaxies that they're getting.
I don't believe in that.
Starting to, you don't believe in that, but it's just they're now saying like they're saying like there's planets that have been warped by the gravitational pull of the sun, which makes no sense. So they're beginning to question the way physics works because of these images, and it's like that makes a total sense that there's other areas out there that have God just kind of placed it in place and let it be, and his focus was elsewhere, but he put it there for us to enjoy the night sky. So
and I love the night sky when you can actually see it.
Yeah, it's true, and we did. I've seen a lot of stars this last week, but
for a few days.
Say goodbye to those stars for a couple days.
Anyway, we were talking about prayer. That was this series that we're just ending, is on prayer and fasting. So what is standing out to you? One person said to me after the first service, they said, what a neat way to end this series, because it doesn't feel like we're ending. It actually feels like the beginning of something.
Mm-hmm. Right.
To encourage these kind of audacious prayers. So what's standing out to you from maybe this sermon series, maybe from what God is doing in these last 21 days?
Right. For me, I think one thing that I'm just really growing into and having a sense of, especially through this series, as I have been focusing more on these practices of fasting and prayer, that I think it's really easy within our church culture, and Christians, if you will, to fall into these ideas of, for example, prayer is something that needs to be a formal exercise. It's like, this idea of I'm going to go into my prayer closet and I'm going to spend some time with Jesus, and then I'm not, or like those sorts of things. Going into your prayer closet is beautiful. Of course, do that. Do it all the time. But I think where my heart is adjusting is that I find myself kind of often talking to God in bits through the day, here and there, like including him in my day. And if there's a concern, it isn't out of my scope to bring it to God in a sense, or if there's something that I need to do or even remember, instead of even like making it my priority to write it on my phone, I will do that. But first of all, I'll be like, Lord, help me remember this, like something like that. So I think for me, it's like my approach to prayer is becoming less of a cultural thing and more of a personal rhythm. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of believers could fall into the systematic exercise of it having to be this, I'm going to stop everything, I'm going to do this, where in our busy culture so often that can get overlooked or missed because we have too much going on, we get up, or the window of time that we had set apart doesn't really work with our day, like those sorts of things, as opposed to the reality of God saying, hey, just talk to me about it, that kind of, so that's where I find my heart going through as we've been focusing more on prayer and fasting.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
That's very
Thanks,
sweet.
Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes it more personal.
I think it needs to be. And we fall into rhythms so easy, and when those rhythms don't work, they can just be kind of left behind. It's like prayer shouldn't be a habit. It should be what's the good word here? It shouldn't be a habit.
Oh, it's not a habit.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it should be a practice, much like eating or drinking.
Oh, okay.
Prayer should be part of what we need through our day, Yeah. It shouldn't be a principle. It should be a practice.
Whoa.
There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Whoa.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a new saying from
Luke.
Yeah.
That's what I just find my heart and where I'm going. Yeah.
So what are you taking away from this week? Let's unpack Sunday.
Well, yeah, I think it really hits home for me in the sense that I have definitely fallen into this idea of those things that seem outrageous aren't necessarily something that are in my prayer life. And so although I have experienced God answering outrageous prayers. Yeah, I think I have to grow in that part of my walk as opposed to this, thinking, God, you have the ability to make the sun stand still, so you can absolutely accomplish what this dream that you've placed in my heart, or this thought, or this thing, or this longing that you've placed in me for, this idea of a broken relationship, or the need for, employment or financial income, wherever these areas are in our lives. It's like God absolutely can and will work on them. And I think that's the adjustment that needs to be made a lot of times, because, like you said on Sunday, so often we just kind of will leave it and then move, or try to figure those things out on our own. But God's more interested in the spiritual parts of it, as opposed to this idea of like, I know that you can heal, so I'm going to trust you, and I'm going to continue to ask. I'm going to continue to drive this thing home that is in my heart, and bring it to you daily, and not just give up after, I don't know. I'm not rambling now, but those type of outrageous ideas over and above these big things. You can provide a home in this market. You can provide a car when I don't have one. Those sorts of things. So, and I just got to believe that your timing and what you have in store is appropriate for right now in my life.
Right. Yeah. And it's this divine partnership that we're brought into, because so many people will ask that question about prayer. It's like, and we talked about it a bit on Sunday too. Well, do I just pray and not do anything and trust that God is doing something? Or do I have to do the work? Or like, what is this balance, right? What's the point of praying if God's going to do it anyway? What's the point of praying if God's not going to do it anyway? Like, everyone asks these kind of questions, and it's the answer, in my opinion, to all of it is yeah. That's it. Yes. The answer is yes. Do I have to work if I'm praying? Yes.
Yeah.
Is God going to move if I don't do anything? Yes.
Right.
But the thing is, we are invited into this divine partnership with God, right? Ever since the garden, where we get to like co-labor with him. And I don't know how it works. I don't know how much depends on you and how much depends on God. I'd say probably none. God's going to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Like, I was reminded last week also about this verse from Esther that everyone loves to quote, especially if you're at a women's conference, that who's to say that you were elevated to the palace for such a time as this? Esther chapter 4, verse 14. No one reads the first part of the verse. That's only the second half of the verse. The first half of the verse actually says, if you don't act now, deliverance for God's people will rise from another court. Who is to know but that you were elevated to the palace for such a time as this? And so if you don't want to act along with God in this divine partnership, don't. But deliverance will arise from somewhere else. God will do what he wants to do, and you're the one missing out. If, like, you think that if Joshua was disobedient, that God would be unfaithful to his promise to the people of, like, no, he wouldn't. It would probably take another 50 years or something, because he'd get somebody else. But God's going to do it because he said he would do it. And so we don't have to get caught up in this question about, well, how much is me and how much is God? It's the great privilege of your life that God is including you in what he wants to do. So do what he asks you to do. And that's just, I love this story of Joshua of, like, he says right off the bat, God told him, I will deliver these people into your hands. That didn't mean that Joshua didn't have to do anything. Joshua got up and he marched all night, and they pursued the army all day long. And then he prays this audacious prayer after he had done all of this other stuff. And then he's like, and God, by the way, we're not done yet. And you said you would do this, so cause the sun to stand still. He didn't say, well, God, I've done enough. Or, God, you said you'd do it, so my job is done. Or, like I mentioned on Sunday, just chaps my thighs. And I do see it more in young people who, I don't know, maybe it's work ethic these days. I don't know what it is. And they'll say things like, well, I'm just trusting the Lord is going to work it all out. Okay, but what are you doing about it? Oh, no, I'm just believing God. You know, I'm just going to get into the school that God wants me to get into. Have you applied? God's going to give me a job. Have you sent out your resume? No. Just trusting the... No, you're not trusting the Lord.
Right.
It's like the example that Alex shared, right? If you're not bringing the umbrella when you pray about rain, you don't really trust that God can answer your prayer. If you're not actually sending out your resume, even to places that might be beyond your reach or aren't your dream, right?
Yeah.
Trusting that God will give you the right place for this season of your life.
Yeah.
Then you don't trust the Lord.
Right.
Then it's lip service.
Right.
It really is just lip service.
Right.
But there's a divine partnership that we have been invited into where, like we said on Sunday, we work hard, but God does all the hard work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I had something that kind of felt the Holy Spirit lead my heart into, which was like a bit convicting, if you will. One of the things I've been praying into too is like that I can spend more time songwriting and more time recording my stuff at home, or but it's hard because my weekly rhythm, and I think that's the problem. That's the idea, that word there, that I don't have a ton of time that I can. I have a couple hours here on Tuesday nights that I've been taking advantage of in the evening when my kids are at youth group. But it doesn't really work. More often than not, somebody will come to the door or whatever like that, and that kind of thing. But anyways, I felt the Lord speak to me about, hey, you have like Thursday and Friday morning on your day off at home alone, that you're often playing disc golf, that you're often doing other things that you could be dedicating to this thing, right? So it's like the Lord has answered my prayer with things that are already available to me, but I didn't really think of, because it wasn't really convenient for me. But I like playing disc golf on Friday morning, as opposed to like this reality of being disciplined and being able to dedicate that time to something that's already there and available. So yeah, that was the Lord's like, I have the space for you.
Right.
Why aren't you using it for these things that matter to you, or do they matter enough to you? Right. So that was kind of convicting. But I think the Lord will often answer our prayers in that too, is reveal, hey, this is something that you already have that you could be using for me, but you don't see it, or you don't want to think about that right now, or whatever. So anyways, that was a bit of a rough moment for me to be like, oh Lord, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it reminds me of like where we read in Scripture about Moses, and he's like, how am I going to do this? And God responds, well, he literally says, what's in your hand? Look at that staff that's in your hand.
Yeah.
Look you're holding it. And with that staff that was already in Moses's hand, it turns into a snake that gobbles up other snakes.
Yeah.
The Nile turns to blood. The Red Sea parts.
Right.
Because of what was already in his hand.
Right.
When he got there. And so, and it's the same thing, like Joshua was raised up as really, a military leader.
Right.
Right? What kind of skills did he already have?
Right.
God's not wasting time.
Right.
Right? Luke, God's calling you to songwrite. What's already in your hand?
Right.
You already have the time.
For sure, I do.
God's not dumb where he's going to be like, I need to add 6 more days to the week if you're going to accomplish what I want you to accomplish.
Sun stand still. Well, you've got like 8 hours here where you can work
exactly.
with. Yeah, right. So
and that's the thing we have to remember. It's like once we've done what we can do, God will move.
For sure.
Yeah. But like there's something that we get to do too. Maybe take a break from disc golf one of the days or whatever it is,
absolutely.
Right? So,
but I really like disc golf.
Yeah. Hey, that's also part of it, though.
Yeah, it's true. I know, but it's true. It's me laying down something that I really enjoy for something that I know I need to do, and I also really enjoy. So, but yeah, I feel like God will often answer our prayers in that way too. It's like, take a look at your own life, take a look at the things that you do, and let me show you where I've already created space, but you don't see it. So yeah.
And I just found it interesting. I'll maybe point this out in our last couple of minutes. I mentioned on Sunday, I love when you read in the Old Testament about where things happen.
Yeah.
And so there was this turning point. That's the place of Gilgal.
Right.
I just think that that's so cool. And I was sharing with my wife preparing, like, isn't it interesting that this is one of the turning points for Israel, is that, they have made a treaty they should have never made. They've done all these things, but God didn't give up on them. And there's this turning point yet again where they come back to, okay, we're going to do whatever God asks us to do and go where he asks us to go. And we're going to pray outrageously and just trust the Lord to show up. And so I think that we didn't hammer this home, but I would pray that that's the same for our church too. It's like that a series like this about prayer and fasting could be a turning point for us. And like as this one church member said, like that it would actually be the beginning. And that's why we do it at the beginning of the year. Let this be a beginning for you for 2026 of like, how are you going to trust the Lord? How are you going to petition God? How are you going to lean into what he's saying and where he's going in your life and all of those kind of things? So, and how do you listen for his voice and pray from that position? How do you develop disciplines? Like you're even saying with songwriting, you use the word, I need to be disciplined about it. We talked about a discipline of fasting. We talked about all these kind of things, that prayer is not just a principle, but it's a practice that we actually build into our lives all the time. We have to discipline ourselves in prayer, whether it's like, yeah, you're going to go spend time in prayer or you're going to chat with God throughout the day. It's a discipline. We have to teach ourselves how to do it. And so I would just hope that this is like a turning point, a launching off point for people, and you don't have to get it perfect. You don't, like, if you want to talk like Old Testament geography again, one of my favorite examples in scripture is when Abraham's following the Lord, and it says he set up an altar by this tree, and the tree was between Bethel and Ai.
So good.
Yeah, and Bethel is like the house of God, right? And Ai literally means a heap of ruins.
Wow.
So somewhere between a heap of ruins and the house of God is where Abraham sets up an altar of worship.
Wow.
And imagine we did that. I'm not going to get this perfect this year. I don't have the perfect disciplines of prayer. I don't have the perfect discipline of fasting. But somewhere between a heap of ruins where I was before and where God wants me to be, I'm going to worship him and I'm going to give him the best that I have.
So good.
I wish that we would take that as a principle for our lives, right?
Wow. So good.
Yeah, I wonder if we could do that.
That'll preach.
It should one day.
It should.
We should.
It's good.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Have a great week. Unpacking Sunday is a podcast of Revive City Church. If you have any topic suggestions or questions, please feel free to email us at unpackingsunday@revivecity.ca or check out our website at www.revivecity.ca.